warm welcome to the CNBC TV 18 special. I am Priya, Sheth, and I'm standing at the corporate headquarters of one of India's oldest business houses, the Godrej Group. Not only has it been credited in making the first lock, the first safe or the first refrigerator, but it also has diversified interests ranging from properties to aerospace. And this year, the group that has revenues close to 30,000 crore rupees has crossed the 120-year milestone. To discuss this journey, the transformation that lies ahead, and also the future succession plan, I'm going to meet Adi Godrej and his brother Nadir Godrej, two men who've steered the growth of the company over the last few decades. Let's begin with elder brother and chairman Adi Godrej. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Godrej.
Very good to talk to you.
It's been, several years. It's been 1963 when you first stepped into the family business. Run us through, how the journey has been and what have been the key business highlights in the transformation of this close to 30,000 crore behemoth.
Well, we've been in business now for 120 years. And I joined the group in 1963 when I finished my education in the US. And we've been growing quite consistently since then. Of course, the early years, generally business in India was difficult because there was a controlled economy. Expansion was difficult because government wanted you to take permission for almost everything you did, etc. But since 1991, over the last 25 years, things have been considerably better. The Indian economy has grown much better, and our growth has been also much faster since 1991 than it was until 1991.
You've set an ambitious growth roadmap for the Godrej Group. You've mentioned the 10 by 10 strategy. We're looking at growing revenue by 10-fold. Just wanted to understand, are we still on track? What is the plan out there?
Well, when we first decided on the 10 by 10 goal, we did well over 3 or 4 years. Then the Indian economy, as you know, growth has slowed down a little bit in the last 2 or 3 years, primarily because we had 2 bad monsoons in a row, and otherwise also global growth has slowed down. So we are off track over the last 2 or 3 years. But with GST coming in, I think the Indian economy will do exceedingly well. So we think we'll be back on track after that.
So the compounded growth rate that you were expecting at that point in time was about 26%, if I'm not wrong.
That's what 10 by 10 adds up to, yeah.
Absolutely. So just want to understand how much short are we of that target? Is there a revenue number that you have in mind that the Godrej Group needs to reach by 2020?
No, we don't have an exact number. The 10 by 10 again is a goal we want to set ourselves. We don't want to do it in any manner whatsoever. It has to be done in a strategic manner. And of course, part of it has to be achieved by acquisitions. We don't think organically we can grow at 26%. So acquisitions also must be strategic, must be accretive, and it's better not to achieve the goal than to do in a non-strategic manner.
As you've mentioned, the economy has slowed down in the middle at least. Can we expect this target to be pushed by a few years, maybe by 2025?
It could be, and as I said, whether we grow 10 by 10 or 8 times in 10 years is not so critical. This was just a goal we can focus on, and it also would enable us to decide how much we wanted to grow inorganically by acquisition. And we've grown quite a lot by acquisitions also. There have been some years where our growth rate has been over 30%.
You've mentioned acquisitions, and that's one thing that I wanted to speak about. The Godrej Group has increased acquisitions across their businesses. What, according to you, how big a growth driver will be acquisitions going ahead? If you can break this up in some sort of numbers.
I think organic growth can be around 10-15%. The rest of it has to come from acquisitions. And of course, as I said, unless we have opportunities for strategic acquisition, we just won't go and buy anything and everything.
In which of your businesses do you foresee a bulk of acquisitions coming through, and how large do you think would these acquisitions be?
I think our largest business is Godrej Consumer Products. It's also a very fast-growing business in our group. Not the fastest growing, but one of the faster growing businesses in our group. That's where we see a lot of scope for acquisitions, especially in the developing world.
Is there a size of acquisitions? Is there a war chest that you've kept aside for acquisitions?
No. Ours is not a very capital-intensive business. So we don't plan in terms of how much capital we are going to invest or how much are we going to set aside for acquisition. As needed, we raise it. But acquisitions, of course, tend to be quite expensive. And we have recently grown also by acquisitions in Godrej AGRO-VET. We made 2 substantial acquisitions recently, which have both done very well.
You know, GST, as you mentioned, will perhaps be a game changer going ahead. At the Godrej Group, what are the plans in terms of what is the kind of internal planning that you've been doing, and what are the kind of cost savings that we can expect going forward?
Well, that depends upon what the final rates come out to be. I think the government would do very well by the economy if the rates are reasonably low, because their collections will rise quite considerably, because evasion of taxes will become very difficult once GST is in place. So government revenues will rise. So lower rates of taxes could lead to very sharp growth rates in the country, could lead to several other benefits and great economic well-being. So I do hope we'll hear about the new rates within a week or 10 days. So I do hope we have reasonable rates which will add more. If the rates are not on the low side, I think still it will have benefit on the economy, but less so than if the rates are low.
All right, on that note, we'll slip into a very short break. There's lots more coming up on the other side.